Hello,
Hello,
I'm Kasha,
I'm Raianna.
and today we're going to be talking about Raianna and her story. Last podcast was about me, and so it's nice to pass the torch, and now Raianna gets to share about her awakening, her connection to this work, this soul family, which for you is birth family.
Yeah, I have a very unique relationship to the community and everyone in it, so it's kind of nice to sort of share that and lay that out and share my personal experience of that. So.
Exactly. And so it's the uniqueness of growing up in these energies, which weren't officially these energies yet. We weren't divine self-embodiment really for a long time.
Only the last few years, really.
Yeah. But even before that, being Soulful Heart was just birthed when you were a teenager.
Yes. So I witnessed the birthing of all of it, the Jalel before Soulful Heart, the Gabriel before, the Raphael before. So
Exactly.
it's really interesting.
Yeah. So tell us more about that, like what it was like to be exposed to, a mother specifically, Jalel, having been a part of that other group before, and having really cared about her inner world and her inner work and how that impacted you as a teenager, like what your experience was as growing up, essentially, with that.
Yeah, it's interesting because my parents, Gabriel and Jalel, separated when I was very young, maybe 5, but they always templated goodness together, and they made sure that I always felt loved and cared for, and that their connection was still loving towards each other. And so when I was about 12, Jalel had started a community that was about emotional healing, and she moved to Oregon to be with them. And so I decided that I wanted to move there I only ended up being a year, but that was when I really got introduced to the idea of parts work. That's where it kind of sparked for Jalel, and is where she met Raphael. And so it was an interesting experience at that age because I'm also going through puberty. So it was a very intense year for me. I really awakened to something in my soul because of the energies I was around. I was around people awakening to their inner worlds. It wasn't so much inherently spiritual or really about opening the soul, but it would naturally do that to you. And so I remember feeling a lot of things and not really understanding them. So I was around Jalel and all that she was doing, but I wasn't doing it myself until I think probably 6 months in. I started with my own facilitator, and she was very sweet, and I started to learn about how to differentiate these different parts of me, even at a young age. So I could still feel at that age the different feelings coming through me, especially going through puberty. And some dark things came up. I had like a panic attack in the car, and we could feel how that was something soul coming through. I made a collage that was very dark and a little disturbing. And before that, I had just felt like this normal 3D kind of kid. And so this was bringing up something in me that was much deeper and moments darker. But yeah, being around people that were doing the work was very interesting at that age. And yet I wasn't quite ready for it. So then a year later, I moved back to California and kind of reverted back to my normal self in a certain way, and just needed to be a kid for a while. And then Jalel ended up needing to move to Canada to be with Raphael, and so it took me a little bit, but eventually I decided, okay, maybe I need to be with my mom in high school, be around her. And she was really healing from a lot of what happened when she left this group. So there was a lot of pain. She had friendships and connections in that group. And so seeing them healing from it, but then also seeing her wanting to resurrect something of it that meant a lot to her. But she also had this vow to make sure that it felt more like her. Like I felt more loving, more accepting, more self-loving, I think is the biggest thing. Loving to self and to others. And so as a teenager, I was very resistant in a certain way. I mean, she would ask me how I'm feeling, and I would have a hard time at first really wanting to share, and then eventually I'd come around. And that teenage kind of rebellion of towards your parents not really wanting to be what they want you to be, right. No matter what that is, even if it's positive. So she would start to create this new way of being inside of yourself with parts that was very connected to Divine Mother. And that was her biggest imprint on it, I think, that was different from the previous group, was this connection to the divine and really bringing in that deep sense of love into it. And I don't know that I fully understood it at that age, really. So it wasn't until all of you ended up meeting, really creating Soulful Heart. I think you and Gabriel were a big part of creating what it was. Yeah. It wouldn't have been just the two of them creating it.
Right.
And so by the time that had been created, they decided to move to Mexico. And I really needed to individuate at that time and be 19, 20, 21 and just have my party young phase just working.
Be young.
Yeah. And I told my mom, apparently, when I was a teenager, I told my mom 22 is when I will be ready. I was very specific about it. And lo and behold, at 22 is when I moved to Mexico to be with everyone and start my journey of it when it was Soulful Heart.
And you were preciously my very first facilitant.
Yes. So before I moved, we worked
before
together.
You moved, and it was always so precious to hold space for you because of your sensitivity and what you were going through with your friends and men, and it was like it's just such a tender. It's actually a vulnerable thing to hold space, but to lean in, especially at that young, which I know as well, it's amazing that you were able to do that because you had enough awareness, I think, right?
Yeah, I think growing up with a mom that was determined to connect with me and help me feel myself, it made it that much easier. So I was very open with my feelings right pretty quickly with you. I mean, I just remember sobbing every single session. It was just, the attention got to be on me. The focus was on me. Yeah. And even if for some parts that was uncomfortable, it was a relief because I was spending so much of my energy focused on other people. Exactly. That was kind of my tendency, my safety and my protection was to help others and focus on them to the point where I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. And I just felt unhappy. Yeah. And so feeling you and your sweetheart was like a balm to me. And knowing you and feeling safe with you was everything to me at that age.
We really got to bond through that space holding, and that's what's really beautiful about our space holding, and I know you feel that too when you hold space, is it's like we get to see into other people's worlds. So you're a facilitator now.
Yeah. And I've only had one facilitant, but she's been around for a while.
Oh, two. You've had
Two
by now.
But one ongoing where we get to. She's been around for a while, so it made it very comfortable for me. And I got to experience myself 8 years later or something, actually serving what I've been experiencing all of this time. And that's been a huge gift to me because I got to feel all the growth that really has happened. That's like the moment that you really see yourself in a new way. I actually get to serve what I've been given, and it's such an important part of the process. Just keeping it to yourself doesn't feel fulfilling in a certain way.
Exactly.
You kind of feel like you're hoarding it.
Yeah.
And it has nowhere to go. Like that is the next place of healing for yourself, is to serve.
So going back to those social challenges that you touched on there, because I think a lot of people your age, early 30s and younger, can relate on some level to how hard that is. And you mentioned that the caretaking of your friends, like you tended to go out of yourself for their sake to make them feel better. And it was a self-sacrificing in a lot of ways. And then sometimes you'd have to rise into like, no, into your no. But just in general, like, just can you describe that whole social era of your life where you had these different challenges while you were awakening?
Yeah, good question. You're a good interviewer. Yeah, it was really interesting starting this work and really awakening to my own inner dynamics. I think that was probably the most mind-blowing part in all of these years, was this is how I operate inside, and I had no idea. Like, it's just running, it's just happening, and you don't quite know it. So I was always a very shy kid and teenager, and so there was this tendency to want to not be seen, not really be heard. I know some teenagers have this deep desire to be heard and seen, and I kind of had the opposite. But I only wanted to be seen for what was good about me. I wanted to be a good student, a good friend, good girlfriend, good daughter. And I had this big attachment to school as well, to doing well. So there was something in parts of me that wanted praise, but didn't want to be seen for anything else, anything that might be judged or, seen as something not perfect. There was a lot of perfectionism in parts of me. And I could be around all of these friends that had a little bit more freedom in a certain way to be messy. And I always felt like they have stronger feelings, they have stronger opinions, so I'll let them lead. I'll let them decide and choose. And I don't care as much. I don't react as much to things, so I can just put that aside. And so I got to the point where I didn't really know what my own opinions and feelings were, because everyone else felt so much stronger and more intense than me. And some people would even be frustrated by that. Like, I want to know what you're feeling. I want to know what your choice is. And there would be this internal pressure inside to know what that is. And I didn't really give myself the chance to know what that is until later on, when I started to uncover why I was doing that. Yeah. And it was interesting to awaken to the idea that focusing on other people so much and not myself is not actually always best for me or other people. And it's not actually that caring. So there's this caretaking strategy that I awakened to that was pretty self-focused. It was actually more about how I was being perceived than actually feeling what would help other people and myself. And so one of the biggest things I learned at that young age, in that beginning process, was self-love, self-care, feeling your own parts is the most you can give to yourself and everyone else. Because that is when you're coming from a place of genuine care and center and this cup that gets to overflow into other people. Remember, we talked about that a lot in the beginning, was the overflow of love rather than giving everything you have when there's not much there to begin with. So that tendency to care about other people and put them first started to shift to more of this genuine self-loving self-focus rather than appearance-based or what I thought other people wanted from me. And then I feel like my opinions and all of that didn't really start coming forward fully until maybe since I moved here in Portugal. I feel like that's when it really started coming alive, and I could feel what it felt like to have an opinion and state it without feeling shame or guilt about it. And that was really big. Shame and guilt was really big for me as a teenager. Yeah. And it's even something I've felt recently into. So there's these layers of these deep strategies that happen inside of us. And now I'm able to be with it with such an awareness that I get to stay current with it, and I get to bring it into the soul. So I think that was a big change for me. moving from kind of a young adult to older was really being able to do something with all of these strategies and love them and not judge them. You just feel like young me. And
I know. I was gonna ask actually what part you're feeling as you share about that. So you've felt so many parts recently.
I think I'm feeling Shay, which is my middle name, and she's the aspect of me that I felt was probably the biggest part of my personality as a teenager. And she is probably the one that led a lot of the fear and the shame, and I always felt like she was reacting to an inner punishing voice and part inside of me. So in her bigness and in her freedom, she feels very loving and joyful and grounded. And then when she feels the shame and the guilt, there's a lot of vibration inside of her, and there's a heaviness, and so feeling even lately that there's also soul persecution mixed into this. I think that's given her a lot of relief, that it's not just her shame and guilt running through me. There's a lot that I'm drawing from in the soul. And for me, growing up in an environment that was so loving and supportive, I think there's been this feeling of I don't get to feel bad feelings, or I don't get to feel hurt and anger and shame because I didn't have a lot on the outside to create that feeling. So it's this cycle of feeling the shame and then feeling shame about the shame.
Exactly.
And so it gets stuffed down. And so there's like layers of digging that up and really validating that these parts get to feel that, and that's okay.
It's that whole, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to even say that out loud. I know for different parts of you, that's been a big journey.
Yeah.
And I imagine even some women, men who are listening to this who aren't your age but are actually much older can relate to that too.
Yeah.
And needing that permission to just feel like you even are right now.
Yeah.
But that's your fluidity.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest gifts too of this work, is just being able to feel kind of at the drop of a hat. And feeling, it doesn't always feel that way, of course. There are still times where parts of me resist feeling and are like, I don't want to feel this right now, or I'm feeling shame about feeling this. It doesn't last very long. No, it doesn't last very long anymore. But it can take time to catch up to what I'm feeling too.
Sure, yeah, I mean that happens to all of us, right?
Yeah, so there isn't this, I think what I appreciate about all of us in this work is that we're not perfect. Absolutely not perfect. I mean, even yesterday I had this headache, and I just felt I wanted to connect with the soul aspect I'm working with, but I just didn't quite have the capacity. And I think the biggest thing is giving permission to what is naturally flowing through these parts, what the parts are really telling you that they need. And I think a huge part of who we are is protection. It's such a natural response to life when there's so much unknown, there's so much we don't understand about ourselves and other people and how we're going to react, how they're going to react. So much of how we operate in the world comes from protection, and there's something really magical about just going there. What is the protection here? What are the strategies? And can you let me in enough to understand you and love you through it? And that has just melted so many walls for me, to the point where I can cry on camera.
I don't think it would be you if you didn't.
Yeah,
and if you didn't have some tenderness, you're just such a tender heart. It's just who you are.
Yeah, and I think that's always been there, and it was so shut down for so long. It's so much of my feelings, and even opening my anger portals and opening frustration and letting myself feel that has opened more of the tenderness and the heart opening in response.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting piece here that you do have that so naturally, and yet so many of us have needed to do, even those of us who are very sensitive, have needed to do some cultivating of that permission to feel the more vulnerable feeling, rather than going to the angst or having a protector step up so much that you're pushing against something on the outside. Of course, they always have good reasons why they're doing that. But on that note, though, so we've spoken to a couple of different strategies that your sort of more protective parts have done regarding the perfectionism and all of that. But what else would you say have been some strategies that your protector has had, or your different versions of your protector? But then also, can you also feel a sense of what that might look like for other people that are similar to you?
Yeah, I think some other strategies I've felt have a lot to do with intimacy and relationships. And I think there are things that almost everyone can relate to. And part of that for me has been trying to make something happen. I think that is such a core thread that goes through so much of life. And for me, that has been partly in relationship, especially romantic relationship. Like having needs and desires when wanting to be intimate with someone. And then if I feel like those aren't being met, there are parts of me that try to find a way to make it happen. So it can show up in so many ways. It can show up more inwards, like what am I doing wrong, or what can I do differently to help this person meet my needs? Or it can be picking on someone else on the outside, like you're not doing enough, you're not showing up for this, and I need you to, or I want you to. And I think once you come to this more self-loving, centered place inside of yourself, you start inside. So you feel, what are these needs that these parts of me have, and how can I be with them first? How can I fulfill those needs that they have? And then going to the relationship. So in this relationship, what is it that I am needing in this intimate bond? And how can I bring that in a way that doesn't make them feel wrong necessarily, but does advocate for what is needed? Because I think there can be so much of self or other blame when it comes to negotiating what you're needing. And yet there's a way to be with it that feels like it's coming from a place of love. And there's also this acceptance of the ability to let go if it really doesn't feel like it's resonating or it's naturally flowing for both of you and feels nourishing. I think one of the biggest things I've come to is that I'm not just awakening to opinion or a desire. It's also just feeling what is nourishing to me, what is actually fulfilling me and fulfilling those around me. And to come to that place, I've had to move through a lot of fear of intimacy. And I think that's really common for most people. It's this feeling of, if they see me, they'll see the cracks in me and there will be judgment. For me, it's often been a fear of the judgment inside of myself. Like that strong voice will come back and I'll feel awful about myself and I'll feel like I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of this relationship. And even moving into this current house that we're in a year ago, I felt a flare up of that. I'm living so close to everyone now. They're going to see and feel everything about me, everything that I'm moving through. And there's a fear in that of I have to share more currently and more often how I'm feeling and what's moving through me. And that is really scary for parts of me sometimes, to really be naked in that way and to show everything that is happening inside of me and the fear of what that means to be seen in that. And it's something I think I'm ongoingly working on constantly, just to feel the safety. I think safety is a big thing. And what's been healing about having community specifically is being able to create that safety with each other to the point where I know you're feeling yourself, I'm feeling myself. So there's a way we get to meet and feel each other in that space. So I think relationship is a really big point of strategy and protection and fear that has so many different layers.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So on that note of relationship, because you were speaking to how this shows up in romantic bonds. So let's talk about sacred union for a moment, because that's something that you have mentioned in the past that you always dreamed of. And I'm sure many people can relate to that. So tell me a bit about that, like what that dream of sacred union, how that's evolved for you, I suppose, over all this time and getting to know yourself and your inner masculine.
Good question.
How that's shifted things for you.
Yeah, that's been a big journey for both of us.
Oh my God.
We've been in that one together quite a bit. We have similar relationships to romance. Oh gosh, I mean, from 3 years old, I had my first crush. I don't remember it, but I was told. And
there are reports.
Oh my gosh, I had a crush on someone every year of my life. There's just this drive. It's similar to what I've heard from people who really want children. It's just something you can't get out of your head. I felt like I was meant to be in love. I was meant to be in a partnership, in a relationship, to the point where it was like painful. And I remember when I was 12, the year I lived with Jalelle, we were in the car. I told her how much I wanted a boyfriend. I was so desperate. She's like, it will happen. Though you might be a little young now. I was so young, wanting something so mature in a certain way. And I didn't get my first relationship until 15. My first real one was 17. And that already was a really deep experience. We were so compatible, so truly in love. I'm so grateful for that experience. I still think about that relationship today as a watermark of something meaningful. And I think my relationship to it has changed so much since then, though, because I felt like I related to it as something on the outside that would fulfill something for me on the inside. It would fulfill this ache. And a huge awakening for me was awakening to the separation of Divine Mother and Father. And just feeling like something starting as whole and separating. And the pain of that feeling was so strong in me. And it would always come out in romantic relationship. Like I felt like a half of a soul until my counterpart would meet me somewhere. And I had all these romantic visions. I believed in love at first sight, and true love, and all of these romantic comedy kind of tropes as a young person. And something that started to shift for me was when I moved to Mexico to be with everyone. There was no one I could project that onto. There was no potential, there was no crush, no people really my age that I could feel that way about. And so it kind of felt like a detox from an addiction, honestly. I felt like I can't put this on anything. And so all I could focus on was myself. And so that really helped me see how much of it wasn't about the other person. It was needing something inside of myself first. And then as I entered relationships again, I could still feel that edge of wanting this person to solve something for me or fulfill a void. And romanticizing what that even looks like and what relationship would look like for me. And I think as that bubble started to pop, that realization that relationship isn't this idyllic, idealistic experience. It's real, it's raw, it brings up the deepest insecurities, the deepest love, like everything you can imagine. Everything that can't come up from any other kind of relationship comes up there. And I could feel how there were parts of me that wanted to fix these people too, wanted to help them feel loved in the areas where they haven't felt loved their whole life, because that's something I got to experience. So there was kind of this kind of a savior thing that I think a lot of women can relate to. There's that phrase of I can change him. And I think in that dynamic, it makes the other person feel inadequate. It makes them feel like they're not enough, like they'll never be able to fulfill your needs. Because one, you're trying to fill a void that can't be fulfilled by another person, truly. And you're feeling like you're trying to mold them into something that nourishes you. And if it doesn't naturally do that, it starts to become really difficult to be in for both of you. And so I experienced that, especially in a longer term relationship, of really trying to make it work. And coming out of that, I really felt this new level of inner sacred union wanting to come more into completion. So feeling my inner queen, my inner masculine, wanting to come together inside in sacred union, and feeling how much that really fulfills, rather than trying to have someone else fulfill that for me. So now I feel like this, almost this protection of wanting to keep that intact. I know you felt this
It's
before going
precious,
with Gabriel.
yeah.
Like, I want to make sure this stays intact, even if I go into an outer relationship. Because there are things you need that relationship for, to heal, to experience, to be in that depth of intimacy with someone else, that I feel like we really need as humans. And especially very loving souls.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I can move through it in a way that I can still hold my center, I can still feel myself, and allow the other person to feel themselves in what they need to move through, and not have this expectation of it looking like a fairy tale, but really feeling the fairy tale inside in a certain way.
Yeah. And then that allows it to have these ideal frequencies, but also be real at the same time. So it's not one or the other. It's not an extreme in that way. So
yeah, it gets to arise into something that you probably didn't even know it could feel like.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I imagined this, but this is what it really feels like.
And this is even better.
Yeah, it's more real, it's more healing, it's dynamic.
It's nice to be surprised.
Yeah.
When it's good, you know, it's like, well, I wasn't really expecting it to be like this, but oh my God, this is so much better than what I could have imagined.
Yeah, you start to really appreciate a real, something not perfect and kind of messy and safe.
Yes. Well, and what makes it safe is the man doing the work too, right? That's the resonance, then you're not overdoing the bridging or like, oh gosh, laying ourselves. I always had this picture of like laying yourself down as the bridge so they can walk over it, to try to get to where you are when you have done a lot of work and they maybe haven't, or are newly awakened or something. And that's
a big part of the trying to make it happen.
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
If I bridge you to this, but you can't force someone to be drawn to this way of being, this way of life, this way of viewing yourself in the world. So I've had to lean to the trust that if it's the right connection, they will just be naturally interested and curious and feel like this is something they've been looking for, something that they really want, because that's how I feel about it. So I've had to let go of expecting or trying to make people feel the same way I do.
Exactly.
Because that can be uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Oh my God. So I realized we've talked about self and we've talked about other. So now we need to talk about the divine. Because for you, knowing your process, but pretending in this moment that I don't know your process, we haven't talked very much about your personal relationship to the divine or how that's evolved. So do you want to share about that? Like, when did you start feeling the divine, essentially?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Yeah, I felt that's been an interesting journey for me, because feeling the divine, you need so much worth to really feel the divine in a deep, like, there's this theoretical, I think, way of feeling the divine. Like, the divine's always around me. I always feel the divine. But there's a way of viscerally feeling that love that requires so much self-worth. It's kind of crazy. And so it took me, I think, years to really feel, I think in the beginning I had moments of really feeling these visceral connections to the divine that would come through, mostly through pain. So I feel like it starts out as a pain portal where you're really needing the divine, you're begging for the divine, you're praying, you need help. And then it starts to become a more regular connection where the divine comes in casual connection, where you're starting with your connection to the divine and moving into connecting to the parts. And I think that really started for me moving here to Portugal. That's when I chose to leave my relationship I had in Canada. It was my long-term relationship, and I decided that I needed to rejoin this, be in it, in the community more viscerally for myself. And that was really when I started taking my connection to the divine more seriously, I think. Like, really wanting to integrate that feeling into my processes. And I think there are still times where I can feel separate from that love, usually Divine Mother for me. And then I come back to it and I remember how important it is, because that is the container that holds everything. That is the energy, the love, the unconditional feeling that answers so much of our pain. It goes back to that wound that I mentioned about relationship and the separation of Divine Mother and Father. And I feel like a lot of our pain comes from that, and a lot of our healing comes from reconciling that separation. And so I feel like she comes through in moments where there's a difficulty inside to really hold love for myself. So it's kind of like this other source when I need that extra bit of love, or I need that reassurance, where parts of me need to feel something outside of them being held. And I think more and more, the more you connect to that, the more it feels integrated inside of you, the more that it feels like it's coming from you, not something outside of you. So it's this internal source that you're moving from, it's like a spring, a well of spring water that you're getting that love from, that starts to become part of your own higher self, your own bigness, your own queen or king. And I feel like they also can represent different things to different parts. So needing the Divine Father, specifically when working father wounds or relationship wounds, is so important. And then feeling mother when you're needing those frequencies. And so I feel like moving from needing this source on the outside to inject that love, that support, and then feeling it come from the inside out, I think has been the biggest shift there.
And what's beautiful is that we can then have those frequencies on the outside together, because we have this resonant field that includes the divine, it includes the self, it includes all of the parts and soul aspects and each other, there's that love bond.
I've been feeling when we're in groups together, I usually tone and play bowls, and those are the moments I feel the most like we're in this divine love bubble together. It activates the field. It's really beautiful. It's really something to drop into, to really feel. It's not something to reach for so much as something to drop into, and I think that's a really unique perspective as well. And anyone who has deeply awakened can relate to that, I'm sure, on some level. Feelings of Kundalini and all of that are related, these ecstatic experiences, but then there's the real grounding in
of the divine connection in daily life with all of your feelings, as you're describing, and there's nothing quite like that feeling.
So then feeling the divine self-embodiment coming together, I've started with self, really needing someone to help me feel my parts and the strategies and kind of melt those walls down with love, and to do it myself. And then needing the divine to come in to hold the space for it all and to teach me how to love myself in a certain way. And then the embodiment comes when it gets to enter your every moment, your every day, your relationships, the way that you view the world and yourself. I'll cry again.
It's a beautiful thing, though. Those are beauty tears.
Yeah, it's like appreciation.
Pain tears.
And it's nice talking about this, actually, because it's like it gets to be expressed somewhere, and my genuine appreciation and gratitude for. What it is.
It is our sisterhood.
And, of course, as a community, we've had to move through judgment and some of our own real life persecution in and out. And I just come back to, this is what feels nourishing to me. And if it feels nourishing, the idea of this feels nourishing to you, that is what we're wanting in connection with people. And I think that's why we serve. That's why we're here. It's not to make people want this, not to make people feel the way that we do about it, but to just be here if it feels right, if it feels like there's a draw, if you're wanting to really be in a place that allows you to unfold in this way. That feels so nourishing on so many levels. But I also feel how it's not the right thing for everyone. And
that's a blessed thing on its own, There's no judgment of that. I think less and less judgment than there's ever been from any of us about that. And I mean, even the times we've all had to let each other go. Because you've had to go on your own way sometimes. I've had to. Gabriel's had to. So it's just the letting go and letting in of each other as is organic, I think is really unique.
It's kind of at this place now of we're here. We're just here.
We're just here.
We're
with
not
our
going
cats
anywhere.
And each other.
And that's fulfilling enough as it is. And the desire to serve is always going to be there.
And we need to. Like, this is, I was going to say, this is all because you're backed up.
Exactly.
Because it's like, the reason why we're doing this podcast too is because we're all backed up. We all have so much to share about, and
it helps to do it together, I think.
Totally.
What to share and how, and
bounce off each other.
So this has helped me open that up again and to feel what do I have to offer.
Good.
Someone that needs it.
Mission accomplished. Well, on that note,
thank you, interviewer.
Well, thank you, interviewee.
You've come a long way all these years. 10 years.
I know. Oh my gosh.
10 years this October, I think, since you first served me.
Since I first served you, but I met you when you were 16, which is surreal.
And
we were both babies.
Say hi and go to my room.
Exactly. It's like, who is this mysterious teenager? I want her to think that I'm cool. That's how part of me felt when I met you.
I was thinking about how uncool I am. Oh gosh.
So cute. Aww. Well, thank you as well for being here with us and taking this in.
Taking in my tears and
all the dynamics of you. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Much, much love. Bye for now.
Bye for now.